Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here today. Today, my lecture recital explores the topic of the voice beyond itself, exploring extended vocal technique across sound, culture, and imagination. The term extended vocal technique may sound abstract. You may imagine strange sound, experimental music, or vocal effects that seem far away from traditional singing. However, an important concept we need to know is that extended vocal technique is not the opposite of classical singing. It begins from classical vocal training, then expands what the voice can express. In a very simple sense, instead of asking, how do I sing this note beautifully, extended vocal technique often asks, what kind of sound does this moment need? And sometimes the answer is not traditional tone at all. A useful definition comes from Janet Ziegler, who describes extended technique as an expansion of bel canto practice through new modes of timbre, articulation, and phonation. These techniques do not replace traditional singing, but extend it. In traditional Western classical singing, especially in the bel canto tradition, singers are usually trained in ideals such as free and supported tone, clear vowels, smooth legato, balanced resonance, even registration, and expressive phrasing. These ideals are still essential to classical singing. Extended vocal technique begins from this foundation, but moves beyond what we think the voice can do. So, extended vocal technique does not mean bad singing, and it does not mean abandon technique. A singer still needs breath control, physical awareness, freedom from unnecessary tension, and clear musical intention. But the goal is not always a full, beautiful, and sustained tone. You will see more later as we go through. As this chart shows, extended vocal technique can take many forms, including speaking, whispering, Sprechstimme, vocal fry, inhaled phonation, multiphonics, overtone singing, humming, laughing, crying sounds, sighing, gasping, tongue clicks, plosive consonants, and many other use of breath, resonance, articulation, and timbre. This is why I find the term extended so important. It raises a question, extended from what? In a Western classical concert setting, when we hear sounds shown in this chart inside that setting, we hear them as something outside of the norm. But those sounds are not new to human life. People have always cried, laughed, whispered, shouted, chanted, signed, and used the voice in many expressive ways. However, a laugh in everyday life is not usually heard as a vocal technique. But when a laugh carefully placed inside a notated vocal score, it becomes part of the musical structure. A breath in daily life may be ordinary, but in a composition, an audible breath can suggest intimacy, fear, exhaustion, memory, or physical presence. Therefore, this sound may seem extended when we understood through the expectation of Western classical singing. This brings us to why this technique became especially important in the 20th century. The sounds themselves may be old, but the term extended vocal technique became more common, mainly in the 1970s. During the 20th century, many composers began to rethink what music could be. They became interested not only in melody, harmony, and rhythm, but also in timbre, texture, noise, silence, gesture, space, and the physical production of the sound. This was connected to the broader musical space. Development such as atonality, serialism, experimental music, aleatory music, improvisation, and electronic music. The voice could still carry melody and text, but it could also become color, noise, speech, gesture, or atmosphere. Composers and performers began to imagine the voice as a complete sound world. Several figures are central to this history. For example, Schoenberg's Pierrot Lunaire is an early example because of its use of Sprechstimme, which is a style between speaking and singing. In this video, you will see soprano Tony Arnold perform the opening of Pierrot Lunel at the 2010 Monologue Music Festival. And we can hear the voice follows a written rhythm and pitch contour while avoiding a fully lyrical singing style. John Cage opened the door to everyday sounds, chants, speech, and performance action as musical material. In this next video, we will see Cage himself performs waterwork on the American television show I've Got a Secret in 1960, using ordinary objects, water sounds, radios, and physical action as part of the piece. Luciano Barrio's Sequenza 3 became one of the most famous works involving extended vocal writing, using laughter, speech, muttering, fragmented text, and rapid emotional shifts. Here's a clip of Sequenza 3. So, in all of these contexts, the voice was treated not only as an instrument of beautiful tone, but as a flexible, physical, and expressive body. For a singer, this raises an important practical question. How do we perform these sounds responsibly? Extended vocal techniques requires curiosity, but it also requires care. These sounds should not be produced randomly or carelessly. A singer needs to know what the sound is meant to express, how it is produced, how much physical effort it requires, and how to avoid unnecessary tension. Some techniques can be practiced and repeated safely. Others should be used briefly and only with a clear expressive purpose. In this way, traditional vocal training remains vulnerable. Breath coordination, resonance awareness, diction, registration, and body awareness all help the singer approach extended techniques with control and safety. The first set of today's recital begins with George Crumb, one of the most important composers in the sound world. I'll perform 4 movements from his sound cycle, Apparition, elegiac sounds and vocalizes for soprano and amplified piano, composed in 1979. Crumb was born in 1929 and became known for a highly personal musical language shaped by sound, space, resonance, and memory. He often described his music as emerging from an acoustic memory of childhood, where sound and environment were inseparable. This might help explain why, in his music, timbre and atmosphere are not decorative, they are structural. This cycle, Apparition, used selected lines from Walt Whitman's When Lilacs Last in the Dooryards Bloomed, the elegy Whitman wrote after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. The poem meditates on death, mourning, and transcendence. In this cycle, Crumb returns, in his words, to the relatively traditional medium of voice and piano, but he transforms that medium through amplification, unusual notation, inside piano techniques, and extended vocal color. In these songs, you can hear the singer moves between song tone, vocalise, humming, whisper-like color, delicate articulation, and sound suspended between speech, breath, and song. The first movement is The Night in Silence Under Many a Star. This song established the philosophical atmosphere of the cycle. The text gives us night, stars, the ocean shore, the soul, and the body. Death is not presented as violent or frightening. Instead, it feels vast, still, and almost peaceful. Crumb translates this stillness into sound in a very precise way. As we can see from the score here, from the opening, the piano creates a pulsating nocturnal atmosphere with glissando effects produced directly on the piano strings. The vocal line at the beginning feels incantatory, almost like chant or ritual singing. It is marked as sotto voce simple, meaning the sound should remain hushed, restrained, and inward. This is not just saying quietly. The singer must keep the tone supported, focused, and intimate, while allowing the sound to feel distant and suspended. This line later becomes more elaborate, with melismas, grace notes, and rhythmic freedom. The piano and the voice do not align in a conventional complementary relationship. Instead, the piano repeats its cycle with the voice moves freely, creating flexible and almost aleatory interactions. One of the most striking features is the shape of the score itself. As we can see from the screen, the piano is written on a symmetrically opposed curved stave, suggesting the dome of the night sky, the motion of the ocean wave, and even the shape of an eye. Crumb often treats notation as part of poetic imagination. The visual page helps a performer enter the physical space of the sound. The next movement, Vocalise I, Summer Songs, immediately changes the function of the voice. There is no verbal text. Traditionally, a vocalise is something singers use to develop technique without words. Here, Crumb turns vocalise into a world of nature sounds. The vocal line is built from invented syllables, quick fragmented gestures, and creature-like calls. We hear syllables such as tiki wui and plui plui. As you can see from the score here, the sound would be like tiki wui and plui plui. So the effects is bird-like or insect-like. And one of the most clearest vocal instruction is a turtle dove effect, where Crumb asks the singer to bend the pitch while executing delicate Monteverdi trio. A turtle dove call has a soft, repeated, and gently falling quality. Crumb transforms a nature sound into a precise vocal effect. The singer must produce a light reiteration of pitch with controlled oscillation, but without romantic vibrato. Here, the voice does not represent a human speaker. It becomes part of the nature soundscape. With that in mind, I will now perform these two movements. After these first two movements, the next pair enters a darker expressive territory. In the third movement, the poet addresses death directly as Dark Mother. This image is complex. Death is feared, but it is also maternal, inevitable, and sacred. The vocal style becomes more speech-influenced in this movement. Although I would not call it literal Sprechstimme, because the pitch still matters, the delivery is more chant-like, syllabic, and ritualized than the earlier songs. Instead of long lyrical unfolding, the line is shaped by repeated intervocalic patterns, registral shifts, irregular groupings, and fragmented declamation. One most important extended moment is a sustained whisper on the word, with soft feet. The sound itself becomes an image of soft feet. The technique does not simply illustrate the text, it physically completes the image. Near the end, in this moment, when the screen shows Dark Mother, the singer is asked to move between high and low register with straight tone and a legatissimo connection, creating a glissando-like link between registers. This stretches traditional singing because the break or shifts become register become expressive material rather than something to hide. The next song, Vocalise II, Invocation, continues directly from Dark Mother. The word invocation suggests summoning. Since there is no text, the voice must create the act of calling through sound alone. The piece begins by intensifying the yodeling idea through quick shifts between low and high register. This is completed by a highly charged vocal gesture with rapid figurations and fortissimo marking. Here, the voice jumps between a high and low note and rises again. Then in the next system, the voice moves through a glissandi while accelerating. In traditional vocalism, a slide can be treated as an expressive element. Here, it has a structural and dramatic role. The glissando connects registers, disrupts fixed pitch, and creating a sense of transformation. At the end, the voice moves into a more improvisatory falling figure. The notation invites a singer to move from a rapid melisma towards speech-like and noise-like effects. The amplified piano, with its inside piano sound, create a metallic, resonant, sometimes harsh environment around the voice. Now I'll perform these two movements. So in Crumb's music, we can see that Crumb stretches the classical singing scale into new territory like whisper, noise, timbral instability, phonetic gesture, and nonverbal expression. Now, I would like to move into a different kind of vocal expansion through the music of our own Dr. Chen Yi. Chen Yi is a Chinese-American composer whose music reflects a bicultural background. She was born and educated first in China, later studied at Columbia University in New York, and developed a musical language that brings Chinese and Western traditions into close dialogue. Her music is not simply a surface mixture of styles. It often reshapes Chinese folk idioms, Asian poetry, and Chinese operatic practice through Western contemporary compositional methods. In Chen Yi's songs, extended vocal technique works differently from what we heard in Crumb. Here, the expansion comes through the incorporation of traditional Chinese operatic vocal practice into the medium of Western art song. These songs extended the expectation of Western classical singing by bringing in vocal behaviors shaped by Peking opera chanting and singing, especially half-sung and half-spoken delivery, holding tone, tonal contour shaping, and Chinese diction practice. The first song is Bright Moonlight. The text is in English, but its spirit is closely connected to Chinese poetic tradition, especially the refined lyricism and emotional subtlety associated with Chinese songci poetic tradition. The poem expresses longing for home and a desire for harmony. The piano uses ostinato patterns that suggest moonlight, while the harmony is modern and coloristic. The vocal line, however, draws strongly on the Peking opera singing practice called tuoqiang, often translated as holding tone. This technique is defined as an elongation and melismatic ornamentation of a syllable in order to emphasize a word or phrase. The result is that a line stretches, curves, and ornaments a syllable, creating a more fluid, speech-inflected, and culturally specific expressive shape. I will now show you a clip of Peking opera tuoqiang. In the score here, the effects appears through a 16-note ascending motif with a clear cut at the end of phrase. Notice that Dr. Chen Yi creates this effect through a conventional notation rather than unusual syllables. The score may not look like extended techniques in the same way the Crumb score does, but the vocal behavior is still extended from the perspective of Western art song. The singer must shape each long syllable with flexibility, clarity, and a different sense of vocal time. Classical legato is still necessary, but it must be combined with a more speech-inflected, ornamented, and culturally specific line. The second work is Meditation, which moves even closer to the sound world of Chinese declamation and chant. This set contains two songs based on ancient Tang Dynasty poems. The first song, Know You How Many Petals Falling, invokes a delicate spring morning after a night of wind and rain, reflect on how many blossoms may have fallen. The second song, Monologue, is more inward and dramatic, expressing solitude, emotional unrest, and private reflection. Most importantly for my topic today, Meditation uses a vocal style derived from Peking opera chanting practice. This is where the term yunbai becomes useful. Yunbai refers to a stylized, rhythmically shaped, musically heightened form of speech in Peking opera. It is not ordinary speaking dialogue. It lies between speech and singing, with strong attention to tone, contour, rhythm, and vocal color. Here is a clip of Peking opera Yunbai. In the score shown here, notes marked with an X indicate delivery that is half sung and half spoken. The singer is not necessarily expected to sing the exact pitches. Instead, the connected notes indicate a general contour and that should be followed. This changes the singer's responsibility. The goal is not exact pitch accuracy here, but a controlled declamatory gesture that follows the shape, rhythm, tone, and language. For a singer, performing these songs require a different vocal color. They should not be sung with a fully operatic vibrato all the time, but with a more forward, focused placement, using a controlled nasal straight tone with little vibrato. If vibrato is used, it should be slower and wider than in standard operatic singing. Preparations such as nasal humming, tone rolling, and staccato will help to increase flexibility. So here, extended technique is not only about special effects, it also means adjusting resonance, onset, vibrato, diction, and syllabic shaping to match a different vocal aesthetic. With that in mind, I will now perform these 3 songs. So, in this part of the recital, I hope you hear extended vocal technique in a broader and more culturally grounded way. Combining Western and Eastern traditions, this practice expands what a classical trained voice is asked to do, while also mixing it with expressive identity of Chinese operatic vocal tradition. For the final set, I will perform a new Chinese vocal work composed by Haoyu, Zhao, a currently DMA student from the UMKC Composition Department, based on the Song of Arles, a poem by the Chinese poet Haizi. Haizi was one of the most important Chinese poets of the 1980s. His poetry often uses simple but powerful images, such as wheat fields, villages, the earth, hunger, death, and the sun. These images often become symbols of spiritual longing, suffering, and artistic devotion. This poem is written as a letter to Vincent van Gogh. Haizi speaks to Van Gogh directly, calling him my thin brother and my red-haired brother. This makes the poem feel personal, almost like a confession. The repeated line at the beginning, down to the south, points to Arles, the city in the southern France where Van Gogh created many of his famous paintings. But in Haizi's poem, the south is not only a place of sunlight and color, it is also a place of emptiness and suffering, with no spring, no moon, no bread, and no friends. This contrast is central to this poem. Van Gogh's art suggests yellow, light, motion, and fire, but Haizi places that vision beside hunger, loneliness, and pain. In composer Haoyu's setting, the poem's emotional sensitivity is captured through a fluid and evolving texture. The piece is shaped into distinct sections, giving it a quasi-song cycle logic. The music moves through a series of poetic themes: the empty south, the suffering world, Van Gogh, the sunflower, the sun, and finally fire. Most importantly, Haoyu uses several extended techniques that connect with 20th century high modernism, especially the work of Barrio, Crumb, and Ligeti. But the purpose is not simply experimental sound. His focus remains on the theatrical tension inside Haizi's poetry. The voice becomes a vessel for psychological conflict. The musical language is structured around three main elements: Chromaticism appears in pseudo-recitative passages to ground the narrative. Chordal harmony appears in more wistful and lyrical moments. A non-pitched vocal material functions as a group of extended technique designed to externalize a poet's imagined human condition. A climax moment occurs in the middle section, which you can see the score here. The vocal line is notated with IPA symbols, requiring the performer to focus on the raw physicality of the sound. This moment invites the audience to experience the poet's drifting into unconscious. As the piano begins to interact with the voice, the dynamic drops to a whisper, and the breathy sh sound reveals that the dreamlike texture is, in fact, a representation of the poet's internal psyche. Haoyu also makes extensive use of Sprechstimme and glissando. By using these techniques, the music bypasses the formal rhyme patterns and tonal expectations of classical Chinese poetry. It captures the direct, colloquial power of Haid's poetic voice, turning the ordinary into something profoundly modern. With that in mind, I will now sing the final song, the Song of Arles.
Dirais-je le mot de religion? Alors je vais la nuit des hauts pour perdre les étoiles.
Altogether, across 3 sets today, extended vocal technique appears in different forms. In Crumb, it opens a world of ritual, nature, step, and nonverbal sound. In Chen, it expands Western art sound through Chinese operatic practice, including Tuojiang and Yunbai. In Haoyu's new work, it becomes psychological theater, transforming Haizi's poetry into breath, speech, color, and physical sound. Although these 3 sets use extended technique in different ways, they share the same purpose. Extended vocal technique should always serve the music. It is not about making strange sounds simply to be strange. Instead, these techniques give the composer and performer a wider expressive vocabulary. They allow the voice to explore states that ordinary singing may not fully capture. For me, this is the real meaning of extended. It does not move away from traditional singing. It asks the singing voice to become more flexible, more human, and more deeply connected to the emotional world of the music. Thank you so much for being here today. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to my teacher, Dr. Feener, and my coach, Dr. Rivera, for their support, guidance, and patience throughout the journey. And I also want to thank my parents and my friends for their love and encouragement. Again, thank you for coming today, and thank you for listening.